Good morning. We're at Leffler Leather this morning in West Melbourne, catching up with CEO Paul Guyett. Let's go in and say hello. How are you, Paul?
Hello.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah,
Robert
nice to
Rolls. Yeah. Thanks for having us today.
No problem.
We'd like to have a bit of a look around your showroom and learn more about Leffler Leather. And we're obviously doing a table tennis net, and we came in last week and had a look and selected some pieces. Love the what you've got here, the smell and the tradition. So I'd be really excited to learn a bit more about your business this morning.
Happy to tell you.
Yeah. So let's wander around. We might ask you a few questions on the way, but if you had anything you wanted to start with, maybe I think it's like 93-year-old business.
Yeah,
now.
maybe a little bit of history.
Yeah.
The business started in 1932 by Henry Leffler.
Yeah.
He originally started in the boot of his car. He was selling leather bends for for cobblers in those days, we called them, rather than shoe repairers.
Yes.
And that's where the business started. And he was living in Dundas Place in Albert Park. Somewhere in the late 50s, they moved from there to South Melbourne, and that's when I started in the business back in 1998. And we worked there for a number of years until we relocated to this property here in 2007. So long history in terms of being in the leather business. The family, the Leffler family, aren't directly involved anymore. They're still shareholders like myself, but there's a big knowledge base within the business of leather. There's over 300 years of knowledge within the business in leather and associated products. And we've developed the business back from when Henry started it with just selling leather, selling out of his boot, to now we have approximately 20,000 lines.
Wow.
And of those, 9,000 lines are on our website.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and we're more than just leather, as you'll see as we walk around.
Yeah. And I think that original showroom, a lot of people talk about the history there, and it was a treasure trove, and it was quite a...
Oh, the one in South Melbourne, yeah.
Quite a beautiful building.
Well, it was a very eclectic place. Yes. It was an OHS nightmare, and people would trip over finding things.
Yeah.
People would come from the country and they'd plan to spend an hour or two there.
Yes.
They'd be still there at the end of the day, looking for things that nobody else could find, even the staff. So it was quite an unusual place, and people were very concerned when we planned to move, and that we would lose that real eclectic nature of the business, and it had been there so long. But we decided to move somewhere like here, which was a big open space, and create really like the Bunnings of the leather world. So we've got a vast space, and everything's easy to find.
Yes.
And those customers who were shattered by the knowledge that we were going to move, I waited here at the front door and welcomed them all for the first couple of weeks, and they were all blown away when they actually saw the size and the ease that they were able to buy things. So it's a dramatic change.
Yes.
It's different, but it's good different.
And I understand Henry and I think other stages of the business led the way with a lot of leather dyeing and a lot of sort of research and development milestones.
It was more Richard than Henry.
Was it?
So his son took over the business, I think in about 1958, I might be wrong.
Yes.
But he then stepped into the business and developed product ranges that were far and away from where the original business started.
Yes.
And that was doing a lot of marketing, I suppose, in materials and dyes and all the leather care products that were associated with selling to cobblers, which we now name shoe repairers, but also developing a trade within the saddlery and the leathercraft business.
Yes.
So that was really his stamp on the business, was basically to take it and broaden the product range.
Yeah. No, well, it smells beautiful, and we'll have a tactile feel as we walk around.
We don't smell it. We're here every day. It's like we just lose it every. Oh, it's lovely, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't know, but I'm sure it is.
Yes. Well, let's have a look around.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, most of this half of the building here,
Yes.
for the first 5 bays,
Yes.
are basically all shoe care lines.
Okay.
So they're products that
Yeah.
we sell to the shoe repair shops and
Yes.
also shoe stores.
Yep.
We're in places like Myer and David Jones and Joe Mercer, selling shoe creams and waterproofers, etc.
Yes.
So there's a vast range of products just for shoe care,
Yes.
and also the shoe repair. If you're looking at shoe repair, there are so many components that go into making a shoe or a boot. Then you do all the other things like they fix handbags, so you have to have all the fittings and have straps and everything to sort that. So it's quite a vast range.
Yep. So shoe care.
Shoe care.
Zips.
Oh, zips. Yeah, we have.
Insoles.
We basically have hundreds of zips
Yes.
in another section where we keep the keys for the key cutters, because we do keys for cutting keys, and we also do the machinery for cutting the keys.
Okay.
So we do everything for the kiosks that are they basically call themselves multi-service when they do keys as well as shoe repair.
Yeah.
So we insoles and
Yes.
waterproofers and leather creams, and there's now big push for sneaker cleaning, so we've got our own brand Sneaker Doctor.
Yeah, and you developed some of these products?
Yes, I've developed all of those brands from scratch. Back in 2021, we developed our own brands in Sneaker Doctor, Shoe Doctor and Saddle Doctor, and we're doing very good business in those brands.
Yeah, and they're exported all around the world?
We export to they're sold in New Zealand. We've trademarked them in Europe and America, and looking to export into those countries.
And you also support a lot of international products back to Australia too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Angelus, which is in this row here, which is massive in the range of products for people doing sneaker painting.
Okay.
So it's something that you don't see in retail shops. So they're buying sneakers that are blanks, then they're artistic people are actually then turning them into one-offs, selling them on their Etsy account or just through Instagram, and it's a massive market. But you can't see them in shops.
Yes.
So we sell all of the product to prepare the leather, to paint the leather, and then to finish it off so that it's protected as well.
And what was that brand?
Angelus.
Angelus.
Yeah.
And where were they again?
They're in California.
California. Yeah.
And globally, they're the biggest brand selling that sort of product into that market. And they and we in Australia are now launching into art stores as well as selling it direct online. It's now going more into that market for the artists.
Yeah, there's so many artisan sort of avenues from
absolutely.
here, isn't there? It's incredible.
It's huge.
Yeah. So shoes?
Again, shoe repair, that's more shoe repair
Yes.
than shoe care.
Yes.
Shoe horns and other brands like TRG from Spain is a major brand for us.
Yes.
We sell the machinery for finishing shoes, for grinding, for polishing. This machine here basically does all of that. And we have another room where we actually do training and we do classes. So we do classes for people to make shoes, to make sneakers, belts, wallets, bags, everything. So in that room where we do the training, we also have a lot of machinery that we sell.
Well, that's a really nice aspect of your business, I think, giving back, and I think also bringing new people through and getting younger people to fill the trade. And
absolutely.
And
we've got a commitment to try and keep it. Leather craft particularly and shoemaking in Australia is a bit like a lost trade. So we're trying to keep people come into that to basically grow it if we can, but at least have the status quo, because a lot of the people that are doing those things these days are older, and we're trying to get the younger generation to get involved and be craftspeople basically,
and pass on that knowledge
and transfer that knowledge.
And tanning hides and more prior to pre-finished leather. Do you do any training there?
Not as such, but quite often when we're doing the classes, and particularly when I'm here as well, I'll take the students on a tour of the warehouse and talk to them about the different types of leather, the types of animals, where they're sourced from, the countries and the hides that are best utilised in different products, the tannage techniques in terms of the type of tannage, and then the finishing. So it's quite involved, but it gives them a good understanding of leather. And really, I think the major thing is to understand that leather is natural. Every hide has a story.
Yes.
Even what the animal eats can vary what the hide can look like and what it can be used for.
Yes.
Whether it's had a sickness, whether it's been attacked by something, or it's got scratches from barbed wire fences and tick marks. every hide is unique, and I think understanding that and working with leather is important, because if you don't, and you get your leather delivered and you're trying to make something, your yield's not cutting cutting a piece of fabric. It's going to have parts you don't want to use or you can't use. So understanding that as a nuance, if you like, is very important if you're going to get into this trade.
Yeah, and I think celebrating those aspects of the leather is important too. I think with timber, it's the same thing. I think you're trying to showcase those natural aspects.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's nice that it tells a story.
We have some designers that come in, particularly that are making really high quality leather goods, and they'll spend a couple of hours sorting through the hides to find the hides that have got the best natural characteristics. A bit like the growth marks on the neck of a cow that are normally in like a double shoulder, because it's cut from about here up, and because the neck is back like that, you get the crease lines. And choosing the hides that have the best natural crease lines in is very important, because they'll use that on a feature. It might be a really expensive satchel, and they want that to be right at the front and centre for the customer to know they're paying $1,500 for it because it's leather. And that's really important.
Yeah, very interesting. And we'll continue on.
Yes. So we buy leather in all shapes and sizes. Here, these are double butts, so these come from Italy. They are 3.5 mils thick and typically used for belting leather. The Italian leather is probably the best for this purpose. Even though the hides actually are from French bulls. So they get the lorries come across with the hides, and all the tanners then get to choose their selection. But they all from abattoirs that are actually French bulls, and they give a very clean hide. The substance is heavy, which is what you need, and they also are very firm for a belt. You don't want belt to be made from a leather that's fleshy, which means if it's fleshy, it can stretch. So when you cut belts out of this leather, they're strong, they're not going to stretch. In 3 weeks, you're still going to have them on the same hole. You're not going to have to move holes. There are a lot of belts these days that are made out of resin mixed with leather fibre. They look like leather, but you're changing or getting new holes cut in it after weeks because they stretch and they roll, they curl over. So this leather is best used for belts, and we sell this to a lot of major belt manufacturers, and also people doing some military work, contracts with governments for police and military.
And they're trimmed up?
Well, they are to a degree. Basically, the bellies are cut off. So normally, well, just to show you, the neck would normally be here. So they cut the neck off, and they're sold as a different piece of leather. This is then the butt. That's the very bottom of the animal. That is basically trimmed right down to the back of the legs here. But what is on the side here is a bit of leather that's trimmed off, which is called a belly. Now we sell the bellies. In a lot of tanneries, the bellies end up being waste, but these are made down in Santa Croce in Tuscany, and there's a few places that actually specialise in doing bellies. So we buy the bellies and sell them to people doing leather craft for things like wallets and small leather goods, or folio covers. We can show you those later. They're very economical. Well, one, they're very economical because they would otherwise be waste. Two, they're veg tan, so they're really great in terms of their characteristics. And they are typically thinner because a belly is quite fleshy, so basically you skive off the back of it to remove most of the fluffy or the fleshy bits, and you get down to the skin. So they're typically only, this is 3.5 mil skived down. The maximum in the bellies we go is 1.9 mil, but we sell it down to 1 mil. So you've got a thinner piece of leather to make those lighter leather goods, and people can afford to buy them. We do something a bit different to most. We buy the full belly, and then we cut it in half and sell them as halves. Because a lot of people that are doing leather craft don't want to spend the money on a full piece of leather when they don't need it for small projects. So we've found by doing that, we've actually escalated the sales.
And opened it up to a lot more people.
Absolutely.
And this was a bull?
French bull,
So the male beast gives a different type of leather?
Well, this particular type of animal in this cow is, the bulls are just a different nature in terms of the fibre structure.
Okay.
So you get a firmer leather. And this is just the preferred option for the leather makers down in that area to use. It's very constant in terms of the weight. The biggest problem you've got is getting the right thickness. And there is a problem globally at the moment, and it's to do with the economy. All the butchers are wanting cuts of meat that are smaller. So what's happening is, if you say take an eye fillet steak, and you would normally have an eye fillet steak that's cut so thick.
Yes.
But they want a price point on those pieces of meat that are cut in supermarkets particularly, that are more affordable these days because of the economy globally, particularly over in Europe and the UK. So when you have an eye fillet, if you've got an older animal, that eye fillet's like this at the actual thickest part.
Yes.
But if they kill it, unfortunately, they have to kill the animals, younger, your eye fillet's smaller. So they might have a price point of those as packaged meat at £9 or something like that. But if they sell it that big, it's got to be £15. So what's happened is it's forced everybody to actually basically have the animals slaughtered earlier to have smaller cuts of meat. Now, by doing that, the animal's hide is not as thick. So we are struggling in some cases to get the really thick hides we need for some applications. This is not so bad, but some of the heavy leathers we need for equestrian saddlery, where we're looking at 4.5 mil thick or even thicker, they're struggling to get them.
Yeah, and that's typically age to get the thicker.
It's age. The only way you get the thicker leather is age. You can get thicker leather on younger animals by not skiving it down as much, but the problem is you've got a membrane and collagen, and then you get to the flesh. Well, not the flesh, but it's basically the fibrous side of the leather. The skin's on the top. So if you don't take much off, you end up with a piece of leather that's very fluffy. It's not firm, and it can't be used. Even though you can get the weight, you can't get the tensile strength. And some of these leathers are used in things like stirrups on horses. So for example, if you're on a horse and you're going 60 kilometres an hour and you have to stop suddenly and you're in those stirrups, and they break and you fall off, that's dangerous. So you do need the right thickness and substance, but you also need, when it's cut into straps that might only be 1 inch or 5/8, you need the tensile strength to actually make sure the leather's not going to snap. And for example, we wouldn't sell those straps on a typical horse used in polo. They would actually be different leather. So for polo horse riding, they use buffalo. And it's tanned with a different tannage. It's chrome tan rather than veg tan, so it's a chrome tannage, and that is really strong. And that's, if somebody said, look, we need straps for polo cross, we would only ever sell the buffalo straps because they are stop start, for a whole however long the polo match goes for. And there's a lot of pressure on those straps. So there's those technical things you need to be aware of when selling leather and buying leather to make sure that you're getting what the customer wants and what's also safe.
Very interesting. And stitching and scarf jointing, and it doesn't matter so much on the thickness there. They all take well to...
Yeah, pretty much. And a lot of places, if they're making belts, if they're actually going to be stitching it, they'll fold it over and they'll skive the leather thinner, and then stitch it so that it's not as thick to stitch. Because you do need, if you're taking 3.5 mil and you fold it over to 7 mil, you're going to be a big heavy industrial sewing machines. Whereas if you skive it down, you can still do it on a standard industrial machine. A household machine won't cope though. But yeah, 7 mils is pretty thick in leather.
Interesting. So they're all just different
they're
colour
just different
tones?
colours of the same product. This is some of the leather that we sell. For example, in the equestrian, that's a bridle butt. So typical bridles are made out of that.
It's like 5, 6 mil.
This one here's 4.5. 4 to 4.5. They grade this. So this leather here is made in the UK, and it's made in a certain way where the waxes are actually rubbed into leather by they're called they curry the leather, so they're curriers.
Yes.
And rather than most tanneries would basically put it through some machine process, the forearm of the currier is used to actually rub the wax in over a long period of time, several times.
Yeah, that's done by hand.
Done by hand.
Yeah.
So that it is absorbed into the leather, and that's why it looks like it's got like a waxy film on the top.
Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
So that gets polished off when the saddle's made, and typically they'll then oil it up with neat's foot oil or a leather oil after they've finished the project. But yeah, that's made by a company called J&E Sedgwicks in the UK, and that's the most premium leather. We've been distributing that for something like 52 years.
Yeah, and that's sold on like a square metre rate, or
these are sold per piece.
Per piece.
Yeah, they're pretty much all the same size.
Yeah, and that's cut around for a saddle.
That's for the bridle. It's trimmed and it's cut for the bridles to be made. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And something like that. That is for soling leather. This is the heaviest one that we can get.
For soling on shoes.
For soling on shoes. It's made for that, but we actually sell a lot to saddlers as well. Because even though it's made and it's put under a 30-ton press to compress it and make it really firm, it's 7 to 7.5 mils thick. Is the saddlers will actually cut this into pieces and glue them together to use them for the knee stops on the saddles.
Okay.
So they'll shape them and then they'll cover them with leather.
Yeah.
So it's got a variety of purposes.
Yeah.
And this is the sort of leather that's used in some. It's a chrome tan leather. You can tell it's white inside. That's actually that's an alum tan leather, but this is a chrome tan version of some of the products that's used in the equestrian area for things like girth straps, etc. That are, really need to be strong for the actual straps under the saddle, the girth.
So no give.
Yeah, no give. These are really strong and typically around about 4.5 to 5 mil thick. Again, they're all made in the UK. There are cheaper places to buy leather, but we prefer not to. We prefer to buy the quality product that we know is going to stand the test of time.
Yeah. And what sort of cattle is this typically?
They're all from cows.
Cows. Yeah. And is there certain breeds that you?
There are. We don't get right down into all of the breeds. It's more the regions.
Yes. Okay.
So most of the animals through Europe tend to be pretty good, but in some of the Asian countries, the animals are particularly either smaller breeds or South America, they have the Brahma. So the Brahma has a hump on the back.
Yes.
So if you get a full hide or a piece of leather like that, it's like that. So they cut the lump out, so you have a hole. So you don't end up with a piece of leather that's trimmed square like that. It would have a piece out, or if you have a full hide, it'll have like an eye in the middle, right down the back of the hide. So we don't trade in those because it's bad yield. The leather's cheap because of that, but we typically don't trade in it because our customers can't get the yield they want to make a nice piece of furniture. You need big panels, and all of a sudden if you've got that in the middle of the hide, that ruins the yield, even though the leather's cheap. So.
And with like the Japanese Wagyu, where the small production, but there's a lot of hand rearing of the animal where they're massaging straw and that sort of thing. Have you seen any hides from a beast like that?
Look, I've looked at some of the hides that the Japanese have. It's very expensive. Again, it's made more for small leather goods.
Okay.
And a lot of it goes into production in Japan because they have a demand in their market for selling very expensive leather goods to local consumers, but also export, as in visitors going to Japan love buying something made in Japan. There's a whole thing at the moment about visiting Japan, buying made in Japan, and so they tend to trade a lot of that into the places in Japan making leather goods. It's not a market that we feel that we can get much traction in Australia for by buying those hides and selling them here. They're very expensive.
And there's a lot of Australian leather here too?
There are a lot of hides in Australia. Most of them tend to get exported for finishing.
Okay, and they come back again.
Come back again. Typically our hides aren't particularly good. There's only a couple of regions in Australia, and some of the Japanese tanneries have long-term contracts to get them, and some of the areas are like down in Gippsland where the hides are kept in farms of really good animal husbandry. So they don't have barbed wire fences, they have electric fences, so they don't have scratches from the fences. There's no ticks on the animals, and they tie up long-term contracts. But the majority of our beef comes from far north Queensland.
Okay.
Dry arid conditions, box thorns, ticks. So those hides typically go into programs that are made for automotive, and basically what they do is they put a print on the leather. It's called corrected grain.
Okay.
So they take the hide and they actually print a pattern on it,
Yes.
which camouflages some of those scars and marks,
Yeah.
and then they heavily pigment it. So it's got a lot of polymer on the top. And that's the sort of typical leather you'll see in a car. It's very durable if you look after it, but once it comes to a point where the polymer starts delaminating from the leather and the leather fibres start cracking, it's gone. So it has a certain life, then it goes bad. Unlike leather that's treated with aniline
Yes.
dyeing, where it's basically like you'll vat dye, for example, cotton thread. You'll put in a vat with colours. Well, the leather in aniline dyeing is done the same way. So it goes into a vat with the pigments, and that's called aniline dyeing. And so you get your colour dyed into the leather rather than spraying a polymer over the top.
Yeah.
And those leathers are the ones that have that beautiful patina after several years and last decades, because they don't have any finish coating on the top
Yes.
to actually delaminate or to crack. You're actually just touching the leather and the dye is embedded into the actual fibres. So, and that's the distinctive difference between high quality, higher priced leather and low quality, lower priced pigmented leather.
Yeah.
There is a mid-range there as well. There's a semi-aniline, which you can put some protective coatings on, and you can put some polymers on there as long as they don't go over 3 microns.
Okay.
So once it goes over 3 microns, you have to call it pigmented.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to tell the difference on those printed and played with leathers, or they're pretty good.
Pretty easy to tell the difference, I think.
Yes.
As an example, these leathers here are pure aniline leathers
Yeah.
and full grain.
Yeah.
So this leather here has had no printing on there at all.
Yeah.
I do know that this one's called a vacuum dried leather.
Yes.
So they put it between 2 huge aluminium plates with holes that have a vacuum to suck all the moisture out to dry it. So you actually get the fibre of the leather tightens. So all of the little holes where the hairs were, the hair follicles, actually end up a little bit tighter and closer together. So it's beautiful leather. It's like beautiful grain.
Yeah.
But if you looked
But it loses, you haven't got that natural character.
You lose a bit of natural characteristic. So that's still a pure aniline leather and full grain, but it has that treatment.
Yeah.
If you go to this leather here, this is a pigmented leather. This has a printed pattern.
Yeah.
So you can see there's quite an embossed look to that.
Yeah.
And so I can tell when I look at that straight away, it's printed.
Very even.
Very even,
Yeah.
because it's a pattern. It's on a
Can you
roller.
get that up close as you come in? Yeah.
It's on a roller, a big aluminium roller, and they run the hides through.
Yeah.
So they try to make it look different, but it has a repeat in the pattern.
Yeah.
And sometimes with this sort of leather, because it's got the heavy pigment feel to it and that pattern, it's hard to tell the difference between that and a PU.
Yeah. Whereas this one here is,
This is a pure aniline.
and that's
Absolutely.
all the natural characters.
This has got all the natural characteristics.
You got the,
And if I actually do this, you'll see, I can mark the
Yeah.
leather and people go, oh my God.
Yeah.
But with a little bit of friction, I'll just do it on one piece, it rubs back out.
Yeah.
And typically these leathers have a little bit of oil in them.
Yeah.
So when you actually stretch them, you get a lighter look.
Yeah.
You see I do
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
It's called a pull-up.
Yeah.
So this is only a very mild pull-up leather. But that leather has all the hallmarks. You can, I don't know whether you can see that on the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
You can see these vein marks.
Yes.
Everything that animal's been through its life, these little
yes.
pock marks there are all over the leather. Some are different to others, but that's the natural characteristic of that leather.
And as we were talking about earlier, like all these marks, it tells a story, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It just
that's the
adds
uniqueness
to, the
to every
character of
hide.
the
Yeah.
leather. Yeah. And the crocodile shaped, or is that a moulded?
That's a printed one, so
Printed
that's a
one?
bit
Yeah.
like we looked
Yeah.
at with the corrected grain leathers.
Yes.
That's just a print pattern of crocodile.
Yeah.
So that's a cow hide with a pattern print on there. It doesn't have a heavy polymer on there, so
Yeah.
that's actually it's got a finish coat on there. That's a semi-aniline leather. so it doesn't have a heavy amount of polymer on there, so it's
Yeah.
still I'd call it semi-naked. It will still absorb moisture.
Yeah, and it's got a more natural
But it's,
natural look.
Yeah.
Do you sell real crocodile skin?
We sell real crocodile skins.
Yeah.
Mainly the bellies rather than the
Yes.
backs.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more economical price-wise, but the backs are quite expensive. But the bellies are expensive. The backs are even more expensive.
What does they normally go into? Wallets and purses and small
leather goods.
leather goods. Yeah.
And sometimes just as feature pieces in products as well, not the whole product made of.
Nice. So these are all full hides.
These are all full hides.
Yeah.
Most of this is used all for upholstery leather.
Yeah. So that's going into car trimming and...
no, this is furniture leather, grade leather.
Yep.
We do have automotive grade leather over the back.
Yeah, but high-end automotive people would still potentially use this?
Well, those leathers over there, we have some very high-end automotive leather.
Yeah.
Connolly Leather from the UK, which had made leather for Rolls-Royce, Jaguar, Bentley, etc., Ferrari for decades. I'm talking 100 years plus. We've been distributing that leather for 57 years. So people come to us with an old Rolls-Royce or a Jaguar and getting it done up by a trimmer, and sometimes they want a bespoke colour. So we'll actually do a colour match back to that original.
Okay.
Or Connolly has all the originals that they've made in the past, and they can actually order from the old programs and get exactly the same leather as what was made back in the day.
Yeah.
And they're all colour numbered so that the actual car continues to hold the original value. It's like they're getting it apart from motor. It's an original part, not an aftermarket. Same with the leather.
Yeah.
So we supply a lot of that to all the people that are collecting cars. And
is there a certain a thickness and elasticity that you're looking at with trimming opposed to upholstery? Are they...
motor trimming has a few grades. Look, it's a bit different if you're doing OEM. If we're supplying factories, the rating of the leather is different, particularly anti-fogging, because the leather can actually create in certain climatic conditions a fog.
Yes.
So if you're supplying factories, you actually have to have that agent in there.
Yeah, and that's just moisture egress, ingress into the leather.
Yes, correct.
And condensating on
Condensing on the windows.
Yeah.
So with aftermarket leather, the requirement, the specs aren't quite the same. But what is the same with most of those leathers, because of the high amount of UV, is having the colour resistance, the light resistance, so fading. And there's also an abrasive result in terms of how the leather is affected by you hopping in and out, particularly with jeans on, that's a little bit more abrasive, is the wear on the surface, the abrasive test. So there are certain standards that still need to be kept, but the OEM, as I say, has a slightly higher standard. And then if we're supplying things like transport for aviation, marine or train, you need to have fire rating certificates, which includes not only the actual burn test in the fact that it will actually de-accelerate in the burn. There's a certain standard it needs to meet. There's also the smoke toxicity in terms of the actual amount of smoke and the type of smoke that comes off the leather. So we need to actually have those certificates as well.
So that's standard with the automotive range, which can be used
not
in
always
those
standard on the
industries.
automotive.
No.
For example, if we're doing a train project we're quoting on at the moment, the standards for those are actually higher than, for example, aviation. In Europe it's even worse, because you've got potentially 3 different standards as the train travels across 3 different countries.
Yeah, wow.
So you need to actually be compliant with each of those standards. So the tanneries we deal with, and that one is Scottish Leather Group over in Scotland, they supply a lot of this transportation leather, and so they're experts at actually having it tested, making sure that it reaches the standard. So for the rail project we're quoting on now, I think we've already supplied some sample hides for them to burn test, so they also test them in Australia as well as in the UK, just to make sure that they reach the standards, because if a train got stuck in a tunnel and caught fire, not only do you need the leather to de-accelerate in terms of the burning, but you have the smoke problem.
Yes.
So you need to make sure that you tick all those boxes.
Yeah,
So
fascinating.
there's a lot of technical things that are behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see.
Yeah. Well, building's the same with your fire ratings, and we've had wallpapers that we've had locally tested to get approval, and same sort of thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, interesting.
Yep.
Is this rawhide up the top?
Rawhide up the top there.
Yeah. So that's sort of going into stock whips and that sort of...
Oh yeah, going to stock whips and those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
We do have some of this sort of rawhide in goat as
Okay,
well,
yeah.
which we actually, it's called vellum. This is very tough. This is like the things you give
Yeah.
your dog to chew
Yeah, that's right.
from
That's
pig,
off the
right?
main back of the beast or a
Yeah,
side?
this is a side of leather.
a side,
Yeah. So these are bleached.
Yes.
But we do have it in a lighter weight in goat, and it's called vellum. And a lot of people use that for lampshades and drum skins,
Okay.
all those sort of things.
Yeah.
It's softer and more pliable.
Yeah.
This is very firm, and you need to wet it to shape
Yeah,
it.
and what else would that be used for?
Oh, it's mainly used for in the whips. It's,
Yeah. And any of the leathers used for actual threads? Were you cutting them into leather thread?
there are.
Stitching?
We sell the leather and don't always know what it gets
Yeah.
made into
Yes.
sometimes, and people will choose something that they think will work for them, and it might be different to 5 other people. So we don't really. They tend to know by experience and the feel of the leather and the type of leather you're using, whether they want to cut it, because you can manually cut it, you can machine cut it. Kangaroo's the biggest type of leather to be cut that way. We actually don't cut it ourselves, we buy it pre-cut. But it's quite interesting because the kangaroo hide, I'll show you a hide,
Yeah.
and the shape of the skin.
Yeah.
So this is a pigmented hide. So this is what you'd normally cut in for kangaroo, what we call kangaroo lacing.
Yeah.
So it's on a machine, and the machine cuts it round circular,
Yeah, right.
but the actual lacing
Yeah.
is actually seems to be straight.
Comes straight. Wow.
So that's the way that it works. So
Yeah.
we buy it pre-cut rather than doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
And obviously it all comes from Australia because
And that normally maybe knife cut traditionally, or are they using laser cutting?
no, it's knife cut traditionally. They're
Knife
sort of
cut,
old
yeah.
style machines.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what the OH&S issues are with those sort of
Yes.
old machines.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't have one, so we prefer just to buy it pre-cut
Yeah.
and sell it. So
And this is all obscure skins?
look, they
here?
vary.
Yeah.
The kangaroo is all up the top here.
Yeah.
Most of all of that is goat,
Yes.
or kid leather, which is used for all sorts of projects.
Yeah.
People come in and make little baby shoes out of
Yeah.
it. It's used. We use it for shoe repairers use it a lot for patching.
Yeah.
In
So it's just a
fixing
very
jobs.
strong, pliable.
It's a reasonably strong leather
Yeah.
for lightweight. Kangaroo, by the way, kangaroo is actually the strongest leather you can buy for the weight of or thickness of the
Thickness,
leather.
yeah.
So you can get that down to 0.6 mil thick, and that's stronger than 1.5 mil thick leather in a cow.
Yeah, wow.
It's the highest tensile strength, and that's why they use it in a lot of football boots or soccer boots, because you're not carrying a lot of weight in the sports boot, but it's very strong. It's very, very, very strong leather.
A bit more spring in your step.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most of this is sheep garment leather,
Okay.
so the hides aren't particularly big.
Yeah.
Grab something off here. Typical shape hide. That's the sort of size of the leather,
Yeah.
and it's very soft. It has like
Yeah.
a real nice soft drape to it. So typically made into garments. And if you were making pants or a dress, typically you're going to have some seams and joins. You use a couple of hides, so you'll have panels in them.
Yeah.
But you need to be careful in selecting the right sort of leather, because some of the leather you'll notice, some people put like a patch on the corner, a double layer or something, because there is the leather that will actually potentially split.
Yeah,
So there are different grades and different types of leather that are suited for it. So.
Yes. So sheep, kangaroo, goat.
Sheep, kangaroo, goat, and then
Cow.
we go mainly into cow,
Yeah.
into different types of leathers. Well, on this table here first,
Yeah.
these are suede splits.
Yep. So this is using the back of the leather.
This is using the back of the leather.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the leather typically would come off in this colour,
Yeah. Okay.
which is chrome tan. So that's the colour
Yeah.
of a chrome tan split
Yeah.
before they do any finishing of the leather.
Chrome tan is just the natural material that you're tanning a hide in.
Well, it's a chemical.
Yeah,
It's a mineral, but it's a chemical. So the two main types of tannage in the world is chrome tannage and vegetable tannage. The difference between the two is chrome tannage. You can actually, when we say tannage, you're actually curing the leather.
Yeah.
So you're stopping it from rotting. That will actually happen in a 24-hour period. But if you're doing a vegetable tanning, it's like 14 weeks, 12 to 14 weeks. Now, the issue is if you want to scale up production, you can do this with chrome tanning by changing to 24-hour shift or 7 days a week with the same machinery, because they're done in big drums.
Yes.
If you want to go further than that, you might need to have, for each drum, you might need to have 6 square metres to scale your production up.
Yep.
But with veg tanning, it's done in pits, and the liquor that's in the pit has a life a bit like, you know, when you have a stock from France and it's 3 generations or 5 generations old.
Yeah, it's like a sourdough mix.
It has its own formula that's created over time. So if you want to scale up production, you need to buy extra land.
Yeah.
Because you need extra pitch.
Yeah.
Because it stays in the pits for that period of time.
And
so it's very difficult to scale up production unless you've got a lot of money.
There'll be different characteristics from pit to pit, even with the same treatment.
It is, yeah. And they sometimes move it from one set of pits to another in stages along, because they know that it's different. Depends on the tannery, they're all different, but you really find it difficult to scale up production. So there are some veg tanneries go to business, there's a lot of pressure on the other ones. Because supply and demand's a real issue. Where, as I say, these folk can very easily scale up. For
and
chrome.
visual tanning's a lot more expensive for the time.
Veg tanning is more expensive because of the time that it takes. Typically more expensive. And this is done for chrome tanning. Is done for high turnover, lower price goods. So shoes are huge. Automotive and furniture leather is mainly all done with chrome.
Okay.
Yeah.
And using this finish, and obviously the dyed equivalents. What are they getting used in?
A lot of these are used for, or we sell them, a lot of them are used for chaps, for riding horses. We sell a lot into that sort of market, particularly in far north Queensland and northern New South Wales, where they're doing rodeos and rope calving and all that. So they do tend to cut these and use as chaps. We sell them to industries as well, people making apple picking bags. You'd be surprised. All sorts of things. We had one person who was buying a lot at one stage for making floggers for the sex industry. So there's lots of applications.
Just high wearability.
It is pretty well high wearability, except they are, it's an open fibre, so you've basically got both sides that are very porous, so they can stain easily and they will watermark. We buy them at a certain grade because you can get particular gradings again, more for footwear where there are standards in terms of the waterproofing and there's also standards in terms of the colour leaching out. So we typically, when we go to a new tannery, if we're going to change, we will test them to make sure we don't have colour transferring onto people's clothes. And these are what's called a double butt. So basically they're like those leather butts for the belts, same sort of shape, trimmed and that size. Sometimes we get them as single butts, so they cut them down the middle.
Very nice.
And there's quite a range of colours. I think we've got about 18 colours in total in those sort of products. So those leathers, they're sides of leather. Some of them are patent. So a patent leather, even though it's called leather, you're not touching the leather when you sit on it. It's actually a polyurethane film.
And that's the glossy ones there.
So patent leather is a really high shine, and that is basically laminated onto the leather. So it gives it that look. But it's not porous, it doesn't breathe. It's a film that's actually bonded onto the leather.
And probably quite difficult to work with.
A little bit difficult to work with and also difficult to store. They can actually stick together, and when you go and pull them apart, if they've had a bit of moisture, the film can actually stick to the back of the other piece of leather and peel it off. So we have a bit of wastage. Lots of different garment leathers in big skins, like this is a cow skin that's actually quite thin. So we call it lamb touch, and black's the biggest seller, but it's actually quite a thin leather you can make garments out of, but you get big panels because it's a half a side of a cow.
Jackets, dresses.
Jackets, dresses and those sort of things, Then we have a heavier garment leather for motorcycle jackets, vests and those sorts of things, so they're quite thick, and they're also have a corrected grain on them. Some of these leathers we also sell even into the orthotic industry into people making orthotics. So some of the leathers will be used for top covers,
Okay.
for the lining on top of a EVA insole that's been milled on a milling machine, but you don't want to be basically having your foot against the actual EVA, so they'll put a nice top cover on. So we sell it to the orthotic laboratories, and they cut it out for the...
You sell the glues and...
We sell
all
the
components.
glues and everything that goes with that.
Yeah.
We actually were selling milling machines at one stage as well, but it's a very select market, and technology is changing.
So a milling machine is...
A CNC machine.
Yeah, okay.
So basically, you'd have software to design the insert. So the scanning equipment, 3D, 2D, pressure plates.
Okay.
So you walk on a plate or you stand on a 3D scanner, takes an image of your foot, you put it in the software. The orthotic technician then designs an insole that suits your requirement. You might have a high arch, so you need to have a build up there. You may have a problem with your foot, you might need a metatarsal dome placed in a certain place. They'll design all of that, create a milling file, and then send that electronic file to the machine, which is a CNC milling machine with a block of EVA, and basically it then mills out the exact profile that you need. Then they would normally take it onto one of the machines we saw earlier that is a grinding machine, and they would then grind it to finish it to make sure it fits in your shoe, and then do a fitting for you to make sure that it fits, and put a top cover on it as well.
Interesting.
So we were selling those, but the technology tends to be moving forward to 3D printing. So typically 3D printing will be a very firm material, like a plastic, if you like, where the EVA gives you a lot of comfort. But the new technology is starting to evolve where they're actually printing like a wafer, if you like. It's actually got like little air pockets over it rather than it being solid, and it's giving some flexibility. So that's just at the moment gaining a little bit of traction, and is likely to be the emerging type of technology. So we got out of the milling machines. We still sell the milling blocks to people using that equipment, but not in the machinery itself. We just think it's a little bit, it's going to become redundant, we think.
It's just so diverse, isn't it? All the industries you touch.
Yeah.
And these are the half hides you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
So I think last week we selected a piece from this range, but just love the natural textures and characteristics.
Look, it is beautiful leather, and I'm not sure how much the camera can show, but this has some of those growth marks up here around the neck as well. Even a few across the belly there, to be honest. And the different shading that goes down into the belly, a little hole down there, but they're all slightly different. And they also take dye stuffs differently, and you can see even from this hide, from this end right down to the bottom there to the neck, it's darker. And that will vary on every hide as to where it might take. And some hides have big patches because they may have had an injury. So the dye stuffs take differently to that particular area. So you see that's got some nice grain through the middle there as well. But again, you can see how it's darker up around the neck.
And where in the world has this come from?
This was actually purchased from Germany, but it came from an Italian tannery.
So German cattle.
The original source of the hides would have been Germany, because you can tell, I can normally tell because they're quite large. So typically in Germany, most of the hides, when measured as a full hide, are about 5 to 5.5 square metres. Where in some of the other parts in Europe, they're actually quite smaller because of the different breeds and the regions. So German hides are, and upholstery leather, when we get upholstery leather from Germany, the upholsterers love it because they're so large, they get great yield out of it. Because the bigger the hide, the better the yield, because they're all irregular shapes. So the smaller the hide is, the more of that irregular shape there is, there's less yield. You can see this hide here, I'm guessing that's probably about 2.8 metres in size as a half hide. So it'd be 5.6 double, because it's cut straight down the spine.
It's a big beast, isn't it?
Yeah, big beast. But I know that it was tanned in Italy. It came from an Italian tannery.
And we're obviously using it for our table tennis custom net, but what typically would other people be using these hats here for?
Using a lot of this, is, for saddles, in different parts of the saddles, even seat leather, saddle seat leather can be used. It oils up nicely as well. Look, there are so many applications for these sort of leathers.
It is, yeah.
Some people might buy this leather, even though it's too thick, typically for doing a album cover, but they might buy it and sand it down, because you can actually lighten the leather weight by sanding it down, because we have people coming in who really want to find something that's so natural and so nice, and if it's not the right weight, they'll make it the right weight to fit the project. You wouldn't want to do that in volume production, but if they're making one-off pieces, then it's worth their while. Some people have little skiving machines, and we supply a machine called a Fortuna skiver, so you can actually run leather through it and actually skive it off with a blade. But some people, smaller projects, will just sand it down to make it a bit lighter.
Okay. We were talking earlier before we came about bookbinding with leather faces, and is that quite popular too?
There's still a market for it. It's evolving a little bit. I've seen a lot of product now in the market that's, like we talked about the belts with the resin and leather fibre, there's materials now evolving in the market that are actually these combination materials that they're finding look like leather.
Yes.
They don't look like a PU and plastic with a print. They're actually made in a way they tend to look quite natural, and they get a great yield because they're actually extruded onto a roll. Yes. And they can just cut it and get a great yield out of it. So that seems to be the emerging thing in that sort of the more mass market for restaurant covers for menus and those sorts of things. Where
one-offs with like wedding albums
the restaurants and that, because they have to replace them, they get used so much. Compared to a book that you have on a shelf that doesn't get used much, if you're covering those, you don't need to have something that's that durable. But there are particular types of leather, if you are using it in bookbinding, and it's, for example, in a library that is keeping books for centuries, where they've got old books and they want to have these books kept for a long time, there are particular leathers that you have to use. And there's a particular pH level that has to be in that leather to actually give it the life. And so if people are wanting it for that purpose, they need to specify that. So we know to source the right leather that actually has the right pH level. Yeah.
And it's almost like a sealed level, where you're not having that fogging that you talked about earlier.
There's a whole range of things in terms of the atmospheric conditions, because typically if you've got a library with very old books, it's in a climatic condition that's temperature controlled, humidity controlled, whatever. But for getting a really long life out of that leather, it needs to have the absolute correct amount of pH balance for the life of the leather.
Yeah, interesting.
And particularly, if they're opening it and closing it on the spine, on the back, it needs to be able to withstand that over hundreds or thousands of times if it's been read. So it needs to have that sort of quality about it. Yeah.
And with threads, we chose like a yellow thread and really contrasted to the brown leather. Do you want to tell us a bit about your threads?
Yeah.
Which I think are close by here, aren't they?
Yep, just around the corner here. So we have big industrial spools, down to tiny little spools that are used by cobblers, if you like, that are doing small projects, repairing bags, etc. So there are so many things about threads that most people don't know. We had one of our suppliers in here yesterday. She came from Germany and telling us a lot about threads, and particular threads that are important in terms of their waterproofing and testing they've done on industrial boots and those sorts of things, where the thread's the weak point, where it can actually absorb the moisture and leach into a shoe or a boot. Particularly in Europe and over in America and Canada, where they've got snow conditions way more than what we have to deal with. It's an important feature. And also if they're selling them into making sail shades or awnings or some sort of canopy cover, and for boats, etc., you have to have different qualities. So there are lots of things that you wouldn't think of when you just look at thread.
Yes.
But there's the weight of the thread in terms of the thickness,
Yeah.
which means you need to have certain types of needles.
Yeah.
There is the basically type of thread. You know, some of them like a wax linen thread that's used for hand stitching versus these sorts of threads that are poly cotton.
So you've got 3 weights here. The 12, 20, 36.
In there, there's 3 weights.
Yeah.
There's more weights over
Yeah.
on the sales counter and types of spool sizes.
Yeah. And how heavy would you be getting that would still go through an industrial sewing machine? I mean it's a bit of an open-end question, but I think we had one of the yellow ones here, which is like it was quite a pronounced thread when it.
Yeah, look, they just vary so much, and we've got threads that will fit on domestic sewing machines. Whether they can do the thickness that they're trying to sew is a different matter, but they will go on domestics. But most of these threads here are all industrial threads, and there's also the tensile strength is an important factor as well.
And they're all the same makeup. They're all
these ones
synthetic?
are. We have a makeup. I thought you said maker.
Yeah.
No, there's different threads here. Some of these are poly cotton.
Yeah.
Well, let's say they're a mix of poly and cotton in most of these. Some of these are bonded nylon.
Yeah.
A lot of the ones we use in the smaller spools are bonded nylon as well.
Yeah, and they're stronger again.
Stronger again.
Yeah. And some pretty amazing colour ranges.
Colour ranges are pretty good. I suppose in the industries we trade in traditionally, we don't need as much in this sort of thread because they're more used for saddlery and heavy bags and those sorts of things. But when we start dealing with shoe repairers who are doing lots of repairs on different coloured articles, whether it's handbags or shoes or whatever, they need quite a diverse range of colours, bright colours. Particularly these days, you're getting contrast threads being used on things like shoes. You might buy a tan shoe and it's got a blue contrast thread and a blue sole, where 10 years ago it was not a thing. Today it's a thing. So,
yeah. And I think with our net too, we were looking at the double-sided. It was industrial, obviously sewing machine, but you typically got the nicer stitch on the top, and then trying to play with bobbin tension and trying to get that pull back into the back and get that sort of continuity of stitch. But it's pretty fascinating. All the stitching aspects. There's such a visual aspect of all those crafts, aren't they?
Yeah, well, it depends whether you want to have it virtually hidden and you're going to buy a thread that matches the colour you're stitching and stitch it with one line, or you want to make it a feature and get a contrasting colour and stitch it with a type of stitch like a saddle stitch or something, where it actually pops and the thread becomes a real feature of the product and makes a pointed difference.
Yeah, that's some beautiful works.
Yeah.
So this is all straps and threads,
hardware. We've
buckles.
got buckles and snap fittings, every type of hardware you'd use for making a belt. Anything that goes into a saddle, all of the components that make bridles and saddles and headstalls, girths, etc. So all of the hardware fittings, plastic fittings as well for bags, Velcro, the hook and loop for those sort of applications. So everything there. This product here, which is biothane, this is a material that's used a lot in the equestrian area and for dogs and cats to a degree with the lighter weights, but this is a material that's got a polyester woven fibre inside, and it's got a PVC coating with a very it's close to a leather grain, but it's subtle. It is very popular because it's strong, extremely strong, and for our conditions in terms of sun, its UV is very good. So its capacity to last in the sun and not crack is important. And also if it gets wet, it doesn't get slippery. It's actually really good for dog leads. They're using a lot now for dog collars. We sell a lot to the horse racing industry for all the racing bridles, etc. And
you can stitch it as well?
Stitch it as well, a lot of people do just rivet. They fold it over and they'll put a rivet through. But it's used huge now. There's the range of colours has lent itself to being used in a lot of dog collars and leashes. So it can be used in cats. There's some very thin, I think they go down to to these ones here,
Yeah.
which are quite thin, and that's
Yeah.
in the standard weight, it's quite light,
Yeah.
so a little bit in the cat, but dog, as I say, it's also being used in other industrial applications. Even things like, say for example, a horse blanket will have buckles, but it needs to have reinforcements. So some people, we actually get custom made 2.5-inch thick, a wide material, where they cut it into pieces that are actually used to be stitched onto the material, and then to put a buckle on that, so it's a reinforcement that's used for that.
That. Yeah.
One custom we supply a lot for belts, for tool belts. They supply a huge amount of tool belts to the mining industry. And recently we did a big contract for the Victorian government through a supplier for making all the belts for the police. So it's very strong, so it means they can hang a lot of kit off the belt without the belt stretching. So that was a contract for about 5 years worth of material going into that project, and it was specified because of its reliability.
Yeah, interesting.
And we have 378 different varieties,
We'll have to
by
count them
width,
later.
by thickness, by colour.
Yeah.
It's and it's growing. Like every couple of months there's 2 new colours here, and we have to keep building more racks and finding space to fit them in. We started off with these 3 bays 3 years ago, and now it goes all the way down here and over there, and it looks like it's going to come up here soon.
Interesting.
So it's a continual growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Paul, your history in the leather industry. Tell us your story. You obviously came through school, and how did you end up here today?
Oh well, a bit of a long story, but I did actually have my first connection with leather was actually in the furniture electrical retail. So I was with a company called Patterson's Proprietary Limited. I started there when I was 15, left school and started work, and we used to sell furniture, and some of the furniture was leather, and as that evolved I moved on to another retailer, Billy Guyett, different spelling to my name, but again selling leather, and was quite involved in that, and became managing director of that company, and basically had a knowledge of leather through furniture, and then through some other business ventures that I had been involved with, including a publicly listed company in manufacturing, curtains and blinds. I basically came to a point in my life, I was travelling to Perth a lot for 2 of the jobs that I worked, and lived in Melbourne and went to Perth every Monday and came home Friday, and came back, and I was looking for a job in Melbourne to live and work in Melbourne, and this job came up through a connection out of one of the owners of one of the electrical furniture chains that I'd worked for, and his wife played tennis with Mrs. Leffler, and he knew that I was coming back from Perth and recommended that I should talk to her about running the business, because her husband Richard was actually terminally ill with brain tumours, so he was not going to return. So after a couple of months of talking and thinking whether we could work together, I joined the company in 1998. And have learned a lot more about leather since I've been here.
Yes.
And particularly going this weekend to Italy and to Denmark. There's a big leather fair I go and visit every year, and quite often we'll visit tanneries as well, and actually see how the leather's made, and understand all the things that they're doing in different tanneries and the different applications. They're a bit smelly sometimes, particularly if they're getting the raw hides in, and they're not treating them straight away. You can get a little bit, but they are interesting places, and they're creating a great product out of what otherwise would be landfill, because leather is a durable product when it's made into something. It lasts longer than plastics. It is something that if we didn't use it and didn't turn it into a product, it will go into the land, and it basically is landfill, and it doesn't break down as easy as other things. So it would be tragic if that happened, and the leather industry is continually fighting against misinformation that's been put out there by people saying that leather isn't green, but all of these products
so sustainable, isn't it?
It is. And even the products these days that are made out of leather can be repurposed. they can be recoloured, they can be changed into something else. Where all of these products that are made out of, well, we'll call them plastics, but they're basically out of oils, if you like, developed into products, and there are some products that are starting to become a little bit more friendly, but in the main they're made out of plastics, and they do break down. They take a long time to degrade. If you put them into the earth, they take a long time. And the cost of actually making them, the real cost, is the transportation of the oils, the cost of actually turning that into the actual finished product, and the effect of the amount of energy required to actually convert that into a finished product. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's quite a lot of groups globally now that are trying to convince governments about what they should be doing, particularly where some of these products that aren't leather are using the word leather, promoting a product that's not leather. It's not even a leather substrate.
Yeah. And the alternative to leather is a non-sustainable product.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're doing that direct comparison.
There are some that are improving slightly, and there are people who are making some nice product, very expensive, out of things, like mushroom leather. Again, it's not actually leather, but they're calling it mushroom leather. But it actually is quite good, but very expensive. So I don't know whether it will really commercialise. There's a whole lot of other types of natural materials that are trying to be converted into what looks like leather. Again, they're not leather, but they're using the word leather in the way they're promoting them. So it's probably not quite right. But they are more sustainable in the main than these plastic products that I call them pleather.
Yes.
Because they're not they're just not good.
And you're coming up 100 years, I think, in 7 years' time.
Yes.
Where do you see the business going, and what are you going to have a commemoration for that?
Oh, we will. We had a huge one for the 90th. We had a big marquee out here and food vans, and somebody from Melbourne City Council came and talked, and it was quite good. We'll probably plan something for 100 years to be much bigger than that event.
Yeah, it's a big milestone.
Big milestone. Our plan is to be here. We've got a very large building. You see there's a lot of space.
Yes.
These are rated. We can actually put mezzanine floor on top of here to go up if we needed to.
Yes.
Our planning is still for growth. We're an interesting business because apart from diversifying, growing our product range, and this is a more recent addition in the biothane. We didn't have this before. We had an Australian-made product that was not very good, very small colour range, wasn't very exciting, and this came along, so we had to fit this in. So I'm always on the lookout for what's the next big thing. A lot of what we do traditionally are 1%ers, I call them.
Yes.
So it's creating one new product, and it might be a 1% addition to the business. So you have to have a lot of 1%ers going at any one time, because our business is a bit like the old adage about a bucket with holes in it. So the water's leaking out, so we have to keep putting things in at the top. So my main job at the moment is really product development and relationships with suppliers and our major customers. But finding new product and interesting product is the exciting part about it. So we're always looking for that, and always looking for the next big thing. I don't know what that is yet, but I might be in Milan next week and just see something, and quite often I've been to some trade fairs. I went to one about 7 or 8 years ago where it was in the shoe repair industry in Wiesbaden, and the smallest stand on the entire exhibitors was 2 metres wide and about 2 metres deep, and there was one fellow standing behind it, and there was 40 people in front of him.
And probably a first-time exhibitor.
And there was nobody else anywhere, and I didn't have time to wait, and he was English, and I just dropped him my business card, and there were some Japanese people there, and I said, whatever they've ordered, I'll have. Give me $1,000, £1,000 worth of the product, and we'll send it by FedEx. And we became very good friends and do a lot of business together. And that was just an idea that had come up, and he'd registered a trademark. It was made in China. It's a thing called Easy Lace. So it's a silicone lace that goes into your shoes, and it has little hooks that go through the eyelets. And so it's great for people that are, people that are lazy, number one, but if you have like autism or something like that, or elderly people who have trouble tying their shoelaces up, they can just slip the shoes on. It looks like a lace, but it's actually made of silicone. And that was the product. So finding that next big thing sometimes is easy because it's like bees to a honey pot. Everybody's wanting to know about this product, so you walk along and go, who's got the busiest stand? And so sometimes that happens. So I'm hoping that this is the next big thing.
We can come back in a year's time and we'll see what it is.
Yes. And look, sometimes the next big thing doesn't take off straight away. It can take some time. You know, markets are different. We evolve at a different rate to what things do in America or Europe, and sometimes, you know, they're ahead of us in certain areas. So, you know, sometimes you might be too early to the market with something. It's not ready to adapt, and you know, you might, it's a failure, but it may not. It just may take 2 or 3 years. But I think today it's a little different because of the amount of social media and the things that get out there faster. So you need to be also very fast. If something's out there, you need to latch on and get in quick. Where back 15, 20 years ago, it was different. It was a slower turn, but things are, you know, becoming more dynamic is probably the best word.
Yeah, good to know. And I guess to wrap it up, any young person thinking about career in the leather industry, obviously you're offer some courses here where you could come in and try your hand and develop an interest, but are there some good pathways to getting into the industry? And I guess there's obviously a lot of industries that we're talking about here, but I guess if with your knowledge and your background, if you've got an interest in leather and you're coming through school, how do you develop it?
Well, there are places like the RMIT here in Brunswick. They actually run a shoemaking course. So it's a certificate you can get. Apart from that, there's not a lot else. So that's the only official program that you can actually go into. There are lots of others where you can get accreditation in terms of leathercraft, for example, and become a tutor, but not in terms of like shoemaking as a proper government based, and it's, as I say, through the RMIT as a shoemaking course. There's a lot of them that do fashion courses, and part of the fashion courses include leather. So we actually have them come through here with all the students, and they're making garments and making all sorts of things. And so, you know, part of that, the fashion industry still has a component towards leather. So it depends on what the person wants to do, whether they want to be in design and fashion, which can include some leather product, or actually understand how to make something like a shoe. Saddlers, typically if you want to become a saddler, you need to go and work with a saddler. There's no apprenticeships. You need to actually latch on to a good saddler who's wanting to pass on his skills. In the past there's been a lot of them wanting to hold it a little bit close to their chest because they don't want their competitors. They've all got different ways of doing things. But I think now what's happening is that whole environment, there's a lot of people who are aged and they realise that vocation is going to disappear unless they actually take people on and do it. So there are some that are really doing a great job at that. And there are other people around the country doing similar to us in terms of leather courses and whatever.
And auto trimming and upholstery.
Oh, that's been that was done, and we sponsored it for quite a few years. But I don't think they had enough people last year or the last 2 years down at Holmes Glen TAFE. So they run an upholstery course. And it's for trimmers, whether they're motor trimmers or upholstery trimmers. They were running a course, but I don't think they had enough people actually applied for the course the last couple of years, because we've been involved in sponsoring them and doing things to help them along. So with their awards nights and those sorts of things. So.
And you're open to the general public, and anyone can come in and have a look around and get inspired.
Well, that's the thing. We find people come in with an idea, just the hint of wanting to make something at home, and then some of them 10 years later have got a booming business. And they might walk around here the first time and be overwhelmed with the amount of product we've got, but they'll pick up one of this and one of that, and they'll take it home and play with it, and they'll end up designing something that actually is a product they can make and sell, and then they'll take it to market. Typically it used to be through the Sunday markets, the flea markets,
Yes.
or the Vic market, or wherever they'd turn up, and then they evolve to a larger business, and they're in their garage, and the next thing they've they've moved into a little factory and evolved. So we've had a lot of those people over time grow to substantial sized businesses today.
It must be rewarding seeing that
Well, it
take
is.
place. You play part in that journey.
During that course, if they get big enough, they don't need us anymore. They don't need the middleman, because we buy and stock stuff, everything we have here in Australia. So if they become quite sizable, they come to a point and go, well, I can probably go direct to a tannery or a buckle manufacturer or whatever. The world's changed in terms of accessing things. You don't need to be travelling the world all the time. There's a lot of things now available where you can search and find it on the internet. But it's a bit of trial and error, because you might get the shipment arrive, and we had some hides from India turn up the other day, and they're just not merchantable. We can't sell them to anybody. So if you bought a shipment of them thinking that they were good, you're in trouble. You're going to have to turn them into something, but you couldn't make nice belts out of it, because it's all the surface is, we call it float. So when you bend the leather like on a belt, the surface doesn't delaminate, but it goes all ripply and looks very ugly. So the options of people are for people to go direct, but they take all the risk. At the moment, we take the risk, and if it doesn't work, we'll write it off and move on. And we've got a big enough business that can absorb that and afford to have the odd things that go wrong, and they do happen. That's just not one I could give you a list of things of, even down to making labels on bottles that appear fine, and then the Chinese manufacturers try to be the most competitive they can and save half a cent by changing the adhesive on the back of the labels, which is fine for the first 2 months. But you put them in a retail environment under lights, and all of a sudden the labels start delaminating off these products, and you've got a bigger problem than the half a cent that they saved to replace all the products. So there's lots of things that can go wrong.
And finally, I don't think you're wearing any leather products today.
I am. Belt.
You are. You got your belt on.
Belt.
That's
and
good.
I think the patch on the back of these jeans is leather as well. Yeah,
that's good. That's good.
That is leather.
That is leather.
Yeah, that is leather. It's pigmented, but it is leather.
That's good. No, we really appreciate your time today.
Lovely to meet you, and good luck with your project.
Yeah, and very inspiring. And I think hopefully there's a lot of people out there that can share your story and come in and have a look.
Yeah, they're more than welcome.
We've enjoyed our time here.
And online.
Yes.
We've got massive amount of the product online to buy. So if they go to leffler.com.au, they'll find us.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll put a link up in our display. But thank you.
Okay, enjoy the rest of your day.
We'll keep in touch.
Cheers.
Yeah, great. So we'll just head over here and have a look at. This is the hide that we selected last week. Well, one of the hides out of that range, and you can see this is the net we made. I'll just grab a yellow thread. Yeah, so this is that's the hide we selected. It's in that beige brown, and then we've got the the yellow contrasting thread that we felt went very well with the bronze mesh. And when you get close up here, we did two different pleat styles. We took the bronze mesh, and we've done a folded seam on the bottom and a folded seam on the top, and then we've done a half strop over the top, and we've done this double stitch. So using the quite vibrant mustard, I'd say, colour thread, we've come through with a top thread, and I think the top thread of the needle gives you quite a nice pulled in stitch, and then we've come down the other side and got the repetitive. I think you've got a better side on the top side of the stitch. So that was with the pleat, and that was with a straight net, and then we've got some back stitching in the ends where it's stitched over itself to hold the stitch. So the hide here, was obviously we cut into strips, and then that's folded over and stitches the net in, and then we created the the strop on the end, which has our timber peg sits up in here, and then the net sits nice and tight across the top. So you'll see more of that, but that's what we first came here for, and I thought it'd be interesting to tell the story of Leffler's. But we'll have a bit of a wander around and we'll look down the aisles. So obviously we went through all the different thread types, but there's some beautiful colouring in here too, and I think I've got some thoughts on some future projects. Ruth, I think the yellows and the reds with that contrast against the leather, and I think a longer drawn out stitch can be pretty exciting, and I think also just a random stitch running through a leather aspect too, rather than straight lines, a more random option. So lots of interesting threads here. Lots of more of that. I think it was a polymer type strapping. We've got buckles. Now into belt buckles in different finishes. We're in sort of more heavy strapping here, and I think that's tie downs, reinforcing in garments, horse blankets, lots of applications there. More webbing in lots of different colours, textures. Buckles, I think, for belts, there's lots of different options to. You find a buckle for any belt. Down to super fine, maybe cat, and or I guess even like little tie downs on a purse. More heavy duty buckles. Pre-cut leather straps ready to go. So I think you're putting your buckle in, a folded seam, and then you can have a riveted connection. You could run decorative stitching through here. I like the sense of a random stitch running through there too. Shape your end, holes up the middle, and you've got yourself a belt. Your black, your lighter colours, your tans, shorter belts over here. Pre-cut straps and other buckle elements. We've got some belt items that have been stamped, so you've got embossed patterns running through them. Again, ready for you to make your own belt or mass-produced belts. Same again. I'm not sure what we've got here. Actually, I think these are shoe bases. So sheeting of different sections that you can cut out your heel stop and your shoe sole. Which is super interesting. But some pretty amazing videos around on artisan shoemakers and cottercraft. I've got shoe bases, pre-formed parts. How you going?
G'day. Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, back to I think what we were talking about before. This was the bull leather used in stirrups and more non heavy duty components. I think we'll wander up the front and we'll have a look at some of the tools. Again, shoe componentry, soles ready for shoe manufacturing. Got a range of books here on different leather processes, sneakers, hand-sewn leather projects, bridles, knots, leather work, bushcraft, into the tool range, hammers, mallets, cutters, scarfers, punching, stitch punching, good range of products there. Yeah, into stitching, needlework, hole punching. I think some of these are into sort of more chisel-like for carving and putting decorative work into leather. Hole punching, riveting. Some scrap leather. Some preformed components. There's some glass holders, bag straps, watch covers, some whips, some embossing presses. So quite a range of different products there. Into laces. And then we're into rivets and other connection componentry. Yeah, so super interesting. I think we might wrap it up and we'll go with that.